Evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I drove along the M27 tonight, and there was a car crushed like a matchbox.
Oh.
It was really, really, really scary. And I mean that. The whole of the M27, all the way back into Portsmouth, was completely stopped, and it was just completely crushed. I mean, what do you think, Tommy? Do you think it's speed or dangerous driving, or...?
I'm more interested in why you wanted to ring a radio station and tell strangers that.
What, you want to, so that nobody else dies this week with all the snow coming up? How's that?
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
No, if you think for one moment that there's going to be no fatal accidents involving people listening to what you've just said because of what you've just said, then you're really kidding yourself, and I think you know you are.
So it's...
I'm not going to drive more safely.
You're not?
I'm driving home, and I won't drive any differently from what you've said. So it's interesting. I mean, you wanted to tell us this. I'd be really interested to know why. Because I'll tell you what you do when you say something like that. You do command people's sensitivities quite dramatically.
Good.
Now, I don't like you saying that.
Good.
I don't like you repeating it.
Good.
Well, you better explain yourself then. Otherwise, you're in disgrace.
Good.
Well, that's not a response. It's an either-or. You either explain yourself, or you accept that you're in disgrace. You wanted to upset people. You
made that statement.
Well, you then tell me what your reason was for wanting to talk about... For wanting to ring up and describe something. Okay, you've seen a traffic accident. We've all seen a terrible traffic accident, mate, but we don't immediately rush to the radio and pretend that we've got something important or new.
I'll refer you to my earlier statement.
I think you better go, haven't you?
You've lost. Again.
What do you mean I've lost?
What do you... my earlier statement.
What do you mean I've lost again?
You've lost again.
What?
Because you've just tied yourself in knots. You've come out with a complete and utter load of nonsense.
Which bit?
The whole thing, from beginning to end.
Which bit? I think that...
No, listen, if this conversation has stimulated people to think more carefully...
It won't, and that's what annoys me about people like you.
No, it doesn't.
You honestly hope that you've got some kind of a pious crusade that's going to enable you, who is just as much a flawed human being as everybody else, to assume some kind of moral high ground because at 10:20 one Saturday evening you went on the radio and saved the lives of thousands of people who were going to drive irresponsibly, unlike you.
You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job now saving lives. So carry on, but don't be sanctimonious and presumptuous, because it doesn't...
Well, I'll tell you what I know. You're on the radio, and that's my territory. What do you do?
You're sanctimonious.
You're on the radio.
You're sanctimonious.
You're on the radio, and that's my territory. What do you do? Tricky question, is it? There you go. I happen to know that people, I'm afraid, do not drive more safely because somebody on the radio says there's been a terrible crash. But I'm always interested to know why somebody wants to tell you that. Because I mean, to me, it's some kind of what they call rubbernecking.
Yeah.
Some kind of. You know. Having said that, I think people who do what you do sometimes have to be careful to make out that a traffic accident isn't a traffic jam. It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
And I know you do that well.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, yeah.
That's important. It's not to say, you know, we're going to be delayed for 20 minutes, you know, because two machines have slewed into each other and there's almost certainly an ambulance in attendance.
Yeah.
That's a human tragedy. First and second and third and fourth and fifth.
Yeah.
And it would be a good idea to avoid it so that the ambulance can get away quickly and get the people where they need to be got. But,
I've never understood rubberneckers.
Well,
I don't
how can you
that.
not? How can you not? Isn't buying a newspaper most mornings a form of rubbernecking? I mean, it's so understandable that we all do it. Every single human being does it. And what annoys me is the sort of Daily Mail mentality, which is that it's an absolute disgrace when other people do it. But
I don't do it. If I'm driving along and I see an accident, I don't look.
Yes, you do.
I don't.
Of course you do.
I don't know. I don't look.
You don't
because it would put me off. Because if I saw that, then I would be then...
All right, what was the last accident you saw? Because we were pulled up
I'm trying to think.
at the roundabout north of Chichester. My son and he was going to golf. It must have been Thursday morning, and there was somebody knocked off a bicycle. And it had only just happened, and there was somebody on their mobile phone by them. And so the traffic was pretty much at a standstill. And you couldn't not observe. It's the point where your reason you're looking becomes dubious. But for what reason? You kind of want to know what happened, and you want to know that the person's all right. You hope that what you're going to see is somebody eventually getting to their feet, rubbing their head, and getting on their bicycle and cycling off.
Yeah, there's that initial observation. No, but that's not rubbernecking.
What is?
Rubbernecking is when you stay looking. You stay for longer than you should because for some kind of, I don't know, ghoulish mentality.
But it's not ghoulish, you want to know what you've seen.
It's the same thing like when someone gets murdered somewhere and people will then go and visit the scene. Why do people do that?
Well, do they?
And that happens, yeah.
Well, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, there's been things happen in the papers. I'm trying to think of a recent one. Like the case when those 2 young girls were kidnapped and killed. Yeah, then people all went to visit that village, and the villagers were like, can they please leave us alone? There was like coach loads of visitors.
Oh, I don't buy that. No, there weren't coach loads of visitors. No, absolutely not. No, whoa. I'm sure there were not coach parties.
Well, that's what
I'm absolutely certain.
Okay, well, I can't say there definitely were because I wasn't there, but that's what they say.
Yeah, well,
but there is that mentality, there is that
say.
ghoulish mentality. Some people do want to go and visit these places. They do want to go and see where these awful tragedies have happened. And all I'm saying is I can't quite understand why somebody would want to do that.
I've heard that those people. And people will tell you that there are those sorts of people, but I've never met any of them. And I don't know who they are. And I don't think that they've got an internet website. And I don't think they're coordinated. But if something is on the news, like a party political conference, say, in Brighton, say, and the Prime Minister is going to be walking from his hotel to the conference suite, then you will get people who will be drawn to that in the same way that, you know, young geeky men are often drawn to standing outside radio stations and telling the presenters when they go past exactly how the transmitter at Whitehall works. It will happen. It happens, but not, I think, on any of the scale that we for some reason like to think it does, so that we can condemn it. That's my wisdom on it, I think. And as far as rubbernecking goes, if you're driving past an accident, you drive slowly. Because there are ambulance people, paramedics and police officers, and the reason you drive slowly past it is not because you see people driving slowly past it ahead of you, and you think, you know, get on with it, get going.
Yeah.
You know, how awful that they're driving slowly past it, looking at it. And when you get there and it's your turn, you drive past it slowly out of consideration. Well, lots of considerations, because there's the emergency services at work, and because somebody might be dead. So I think that's... Hearses don't drive fast, do they?
No.
It's not rubbernecking. And also there's a plaque, probably the most famous monument in the south of England is the plaque on HMS Victory that says, Lord Nelson fell here. Is that rubbernecking? I mean, you have to pay to do that rubbernecking. Am I right?
Again, I don't understand that.
What, going to see where Nelson died?
Yeah, I don't understand that. That is not something I would ever want to go and do.
I don't know why most people do the things they do. I really don't.
No.
I mean, I know that means you'd sit at home most of the time, but then that's what I do. Quite happily.